Welcome to Salon Stories, the podcast where I chat with brilliant people from across the hair and beauty industry about their journeys, their experiences, and everything in between. I truly believe that we can all learn so much from each other's stories, whether you're starting out or you've been in the game for years. Today, I am joined by the amazing Gemma from the Gem Clinic. Gemma's journey in the beauty and aesthetics industry is super impressive. She's trained in advanced aesthetics all the way in Portland in the US. She continued her education in the UK. And not only is she a super skilled practitioner, she's also spent over 5 years teaching and mentoring the next generation of beauty professionals through City and Guilds. On top of all that, she's a qualified phlebotomist. She's a hairdresser with a master's in hairdressing. She is a beauty therapist and a makeup artist, and she holds a level 7 degree in human anatomy and physiology. And somehow she balances all of that while also being a mum as well. I've had treatments with Gemma myself, and I can honestly say she is one of the kindest, most gentle, and fun people you could ever meet. So I can't wait to chat to her about her journeys and the lessons she's learned. So let's get into it. So welcome, Gemma. I'm so excited to have you
Thanks,
on the
Melissa.
podcast. I knew you were a perfect guest the minute I met you. So tell me, let's go back to the absolute beginning and what got you first interested in the hair and beauty industry and how did you get started?
I suppose at the start, it started from a very young age where I just had an absolute interest and flair for putting on makeup, my mom's makeup, doing my mom's hair. And she gave me great freedom in experimenting on herself, really. So I'd say I started just practicing on my mother's hair, my dolls, and cutting hair, actually. She let me cut her hair and I was no more than 10 years of age. She was fairly liberating and free spirited, and she decided to see something in me. She'd go for it. But I was fairly actually good at it, obviously, because if she was letting me do, and she always told me that I could put on lipstick perfectly when I was 5 to 6 years of age and lip liner. So I was always into style and fashion back in the 80s, watching, I think, Dallas and everything. It just got me into that flair of style, beauty. And I knew from then on in, that's all I ever wanted to do.
That's so cool. So you knew from a really super young
Yeah.
age, because I speak to some hairdressers that kind of fell into it by accident, or others that wanted to be hairdressers or beauticians from when they started. So your mum sounds amazing. I bet
Thank
she
you.
was delighted. I wish I had a daughter who'd do my hair and makeup. That'd be amazing. So what made you take the leap and launch the Gem Clinic? And have you always wanted to run your own business, or is that something that kind of happened later?
I suppose the Gem Clinic was further on. I felt at the time I started off with anatomy and physiology and sports massage at the beginning, and I concentrated on that. But I always had the draw to get back into kind of hair and beauty. So I didn't really start out to me later starting with the hair. I would have been about 21 at the time. In my eyes, it was late. So from then on up to 24, I went straight into hairdressing and beauty after I done my degree in anatomy and physiology. So it was one leap to the other. I started my first business with sports massage and anatomy and physiology in when I was 21 in
Wow.
2001. And then I went back to do college, where when I finished up that business, I went into my hairdressing apprenticeship, did the hair and beauty at the very same time, and went to college and worked full time. So it was a lot to take on. Yeah.
That's a whole lot. Oh my God. And when you started your first business, did you have any support, or was it just, it felt right?
When I started the massage, and it was a very small business, and I did well in that with the sports injury and massage. But as I said, I always felt the niche that I should be in the kind of hair and beauty industry more. It was a good experience starting that first business, and it definitely set me up knowing about business and what's needed in business. It set me up for going forward with the other businesses for sure. But once I got into the hair and beauty, there was no going back for me. I had such an interest in it that I actually ended up qualifying quite early, in 2 years, which in a 4-year apprenticeship. They used to have a nickname on me when I started out. It was called the racehorse, because they just couldn't keep me back. I think because I had the flair for it, just came natural to me, cutting and all that stuff that people find daunting at the start. It wasn't for me at all.
Yeah. And I can absolutely tell how much you love the industry
Yeah.
and love your job. When you started your own clinic, when you opened the Gem Clinic,
Mm.
was there any challenges that you came across? And if there was, how did you push through them?
Yeah, years later then, after I came back from the US is when I really opened the first gem clinic. And there were certainly challenges at that time. I always had vision, you see, I could see down the road, but implementing that and putting those into practice were probably the challenge in itself. And at the time, I always felt Ireland was behind the UK and the US when it comes to advanced aesthetics and what's next coming. So them in itself were challenging. I always wanted to practice in the right way and the high standards. So implementing proper insurances, the proper workspace buildings, they were always challenging for the first business. Yeah.
But I also love that you had those goals and you could see where the business is going because I think that's something, and no shade at all, because this is when I started, I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. When I started my own business, I plucked a number out of the air for what I thought I should charge. No idea of the business side of things and no idea where I was going with it, but it's so important. And what I always say to my students, it's like getting in a taxi and not knowing where you want to go.
Yeah.
You're going to end up somewhere you don't want to go and it's going to cost you loads of money. So I love that you had those goals starting out. That's really super interesting. So tell me, what is the proudest moment of your career so far?
It's really a tough one. I think the proudest of them all is having that vision right down to the brand, the design of the brand, representing my name, who I am, and try to be authentic in everything I do regarding my business. I'm a very personal person. So even when I'm working on my clients, I like to go up and beyond and to try and achieve what their requirements are, you could say. So that means the world to me. And I think when I do achieve that and you can see someone leave your clinic that's absolutely ecstatic with the work you've done, that's my buzz, that's my rush. That's where I get my fix from. And I think there's been many times and many clients that I've been proud of that I've worked on. I can't particularly pick out one thing, but that's the chase for me. And that's what I go after each time.
Yeah, like I think for you, the customer journey and the customer experience is super, super important. And I think
Mm.
that's why people keep coming back. It is the overall experience. It's not necessarily because you're brilliant at what you do. That's definitely a big part of it. But the reason they come back is for Gemma, the experience with you and how you treat them and how you make them feel. And I
Love
think there's
this
a big
area.
learning in that for
Yeah.
people. I think that's super important. I know that you spent a long time teaching, so you've been teaching for a very long time. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is starting out in beauty or hair? What would you tell them?
I think again, vision is so important. I think, like you said as well, Melissa, you need to find out where you want to go with this. I think particularly hairdressers, they're all individual. They all have a flair, whether it be hair extensions, coloring. There's some gift within that, and to be creative and bring out your own creativity, whatever that might be, and go with that. Have your vision, and don't let anyone tell you can't. Basically, just keep going.
I
That's
can't
it.
agree enough, to be honest. I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. And it's a piece of advice I would have loved starting out. I don't know about yourself,
Mhm.
but when I started my business, I felt like I needed to fit a certain mold of the hair and beauty industry.
Yeah.
And I felt like I used to hide behind a lot of stock imagery and a lot of, I want to say professionalism, but that's the wrong word because I am professional, but I would hide my own personality and I'd hide myself a lot. And once I started to put myself out there more, my bookings just shot up. And
Love.
I think that's a real lesson to learn is people buy from people. You have something special and that's what makes you stand out. And that's why people come to you. So whether it is the customer experience or your personality, or as you said, what you specialize in, whether it's hair extensions or color or cuts or aesthetics or whatever it is, I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. So personally, I've had loads of mentors and people that have helped me along my journey. Is there somebody who you have had that's really influenced or inspired you, a mentor, somebody that helped you along the way?
There has been so many within the industry. I couldn't even pick one from starting out. My first mentor would have been my apprenticeship I done locally here. I got something from everyone I've worked with. And I think that's the best advice too to give to anyone. If you can get something from everyone you worked with and pick up something, what better way? They're all mentors at the day. Every day is a school day. You always learn. I'm hungry for learning. I never give up doing courses and upskilling. And so there's not one particular person. There's many motivational speakers and stuff that I've always listened to in business, and how to upscale your business and motivate you to keep going.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important. I think that this industry is changing constantly. If you stop learning, you just stagnate. Like I
Yeah.
put aside a certain amount of money every year in order to do courses. I try to do at least 2 or 3 every quarter. And I think they're so important in everything from business to hair and beauty, all those things. So that's what keeps you good at your job. Do you know, if I had to stop learning years ago, I'd be a dinosaur now. I'd be
Absolutely.
left behind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that's super important. I love what you said about learning one piece from each person, because that's how when I go into a course or talk to somebody, I always think, what's one thing I can learn? And even if I learn one thing, I'm delighted with myself, and then I can take those lessons. So I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I know that we have all made mistakes, so I've certainly made
Mhm.
a million mistakes. And
Mm.
what I do is I use those to teach my students, so hopefully they don't make the same mistakes as me. What's one mistake that you made earlier on in your career, and did you turn it into a lesson?
I suppose, like looking back, particularly the marketing and advertising side of things, I was always quite fearful of that because it wasn't my forte, and I was more fearful of it, and I didn't want to learn about it either. I was holding back. And probably is still a bit like that, if I'm being honest. I like to be on the tools, doing what I'm good at doing, my skill, but I was more fearful of we're running a business. You have to be good at different things, being an accountant, marketing, and advertising. It's not just going in to do your job, well, what you're skillful at. So I'd say the mistake I made would be within my business was the marketing and advertising stuff, buying into people, selling you the dream that they can do it all for you, the marketing and advertising, and probably paying out without looking into that and how beneficial was that in my business. I definitely made a couple of mistakes doing that earlier on. And I know now it's just part and parcel. You have to elevate yourself, whether it be on social media or marketing and advertising. I'd say that's one that really stands out in my mind.
Yeah, it's vital. And when you
Mm.
and I started, because we started around the same time, and yeah, there was none of that. We were hairdressers, we were beauticians. That was our
Yeah.
only job. Nowadays, it's a full-time job with the social media side of things. But I think there's two really good lessons you spoke about there, because one is definitely, if you're not good at something, hire someone else to do it. I believe 1,000,000% in that, but also hire the right person, because I
That's
have
it.
certainly made those mistakes as well.
Yeah.
I've hired people who are friends of friends, where they talk to
Mm.
talk and they can't deliver. So I think it's doing your own research and seeing the results they have created for other people. But there's definitely 1,000,000%, if you're not good at something, hire somebody else to do it. Like personally, I cannot answer the phone. I do not talk on the phone, don't do phones. So I was missing out on loads and loads of business, because my phone would be
Yeah.
ringing and I'd just be looking at it in horror, and I go, okay, I'll ring her back later. And then I'd call her back way too late. She's already booked somebody else. So I hired my assistant, who is an absolute angel. I couldn't do it without her. And she actually pays for herself multiple times over because
Oh,
of the amount of
amazing.
business that she
Mm.
gets. So I think, especially, I think that's a good lesson with social media, because I do speak to a lot of hairdressers, obviously, and beauticians, who say, oh, I don't do social media, but they're missing out on so much business. So
Mm.
even hiring somebody to come in once a month and take their content for them and schedule it for them, all that stuff, so they don't have to do it, it will pay for themselves, but it needs to be the right person. Yeah, excellent bits of advice there from you. So I know that your big thing is aesthetic treatments. I know you
Mm.
have all these different pots going, or whatever the
Mm.
saying is, but aesthetics, I know, is your big thing. So are there any common myths or misconceptions about aesthetic treatments that you wish that more people understood?
Absolutely. I think the one in particular that stands out for me is, especially if people are starting out and they're doing their research into aesthetics and maybe filler in particular, and an enhancement, they expect to maybe get a whole facelift and work done on 1 mil. So they think a mil is massive. And I do try to break it down and say a mil is like the top of your little finger. There's only so much we can do. We can't do miracles. So I think the misconception there is that everyone thinks, oh my God, a mil. And how can I spend that money on that amount? And am I going to walk out the door looking like Pete Burns after it? It's not the case, because it's trying to educate them on that side of things. I think that's where it's going. And it takes time. It's a process to get where you want to go aesthetically with your face. It takes time, money, expertise, going to the right person. I think people are too concerned as well um, on pricing on it. If you're paying below average cost on these, you have to look at and go, why? You have to be going to an expert on what they're doing, really look into their credentials, all that type of thing. It's really important because at the end of the day, you're injecting your face. So
It's
it's
your face.
very
That always
important.
shocks me when people are like, they're trying to cut corners or scrimp with their face,
I know.
yet they'll throw away that sort of money on a night out or a bag or a pair of
Absolutely.
it's alien to me. It's absolutely crazy. But I think you get what you pay for, really.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really liked, I remember you said to me that you compared like a mill to like a child's Calpol spoon, and
Absolutely.
and that was
It's
such a
like a
like eye-opening
syringe of
thing.
5 mils you give your child, the Calpol. So really you're trying to say, look, well, what is a mil? It's tiny amount of hyaluronic acid, really. That's it.
It's very small. It's hard though until you see it, I think, because even like when I'm doing hair extensions and I do a method called nano rings, and nano rings are tiny. Like they're literally, I always say they're the size of the tip of a biro. Like they're absolutely tiny. And people go, oh yeah,
Mm.
whatever. And then they see them and everyone always goes, oh my God, they're tiny. And I always say, yeah, I told you, but it's hard to visualize that. So I really
Mm.
liked your Calpol spoon example. I thought that
And
was great.
just another thing that I've always considered with aesthetics in particular, people are wrapped up in, oh, they're medic, they're non-medic. I know that's quite important. Step back and with aesthetics, it is an artwork as well. You're an artist. So you have to, again, which I'm good at, you have to see the vision of where you want that face to go, where the client wants the face to go. And then there's your creative side. You need it to come out on the client of your skill of artwork. It's like a tattoo artist.
So tell me, you're a hairdresser as well. So what's your favorite bit of hairdressing?
I absolutely love color and I love color correction. I love to be challenged in hair. How I end up getting back into hair just of late is because a friend of sister actually ended up calling to me with an emergency case of color going wrong. And I could fix it like in a heartbeat. I was good at that when I was teaching as well, color correction and pigmentations and colors. And I fell in love with it again. This is what I'm good at. Why wouldn't I be doing it? And again, it's helping people. And she was actually crying when I fixed her hair. And she was like, oh my God, thank God, it can go so wrong, but you could just fix it. So I love that. I love challenging with a hair and even keratin treatments and strengthening hair and bringing it all back. That's again, that was for me, that challenge. So that's what I love in hair. I'm recreating, like restyling someone and giving them that fresh look back and just to see what it does. It's all about giving confidence back to people. That's where it lies for me. Yeah.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And obviously I'm biased because I'm hair, but I just think if your hair looks bad, if you're having a bad hair day, it doesn't matter what you do with your makeup, doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what you're wearing. But if your hair looks good, you can throw on a scrap of makeup, throw on any old thing, and you feel good about yourself. So I'm obviously, again, I'm biased, but I'm all about hairs.
Yeah.
So I know that you worked in Portland. So I'm really excited to know, how did you end up in Portland, Oregon? What happened
And when
there?
I've been to the States previous, I just loved that area in particular. And I didn't work there now, I trained there. And it was an amazing time. And I always felt in America anyway, when with aesthetics, they were ahead of the game. People were going to get procedures done on their lunch break. It was no big deal compared to over here. And I loved that side of things. And I suppose I got hooked into actually the story that always drove me to get into aesthetics, even after the hairdressing, was I watched that program years ago, The Swan. Do you ever remember that?
Yeah.
As a little girl, where they just did this makeover from top to bottom on people, and like they'd come out unrecognizable. And I was
Amazing.
like, that was it for me. I was a very young watching that program, and I was like, I'm going to do that. That was me. And looking back now, I have created where I do that, and I can do it all: hair, aesthetics, everything. So I got that feel and connection over there in the States, and an opportunity came about where I go over and I do an understudy over there and learn all my advanced aesthetics, and I took it.
Cool.
So it's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm laughing
It's
there. It makes
crazy
I
what the
want to
time
I want to go back and watch the Swan.
I know. But yeah, I have my young son with me at the time, so it was quite challenging. So I went and did that with him, and he was only 4 months old.
Oh my
I
God, that's
suppose
amazing.
that's my proudest moment. There's been many, but that's one of them in particular. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And I'm laughing at you saying when you went to the States and it was completely different there because I lived in the States probably about the same time. It was about 2003. And I remember I used to get like the magazines that had like loads of ads in the back for like
Yeah.
aesthetic treatments and like plastic surgery and stuff. And I thought it was mental and alien compared to what we have here. And I used to actually cut them out and send them back home to be like, look at what they're doing over here. And now it's just become the same over here. So it's so
Yeah.
funny. That was like 20 something years ago. So it's back in the day, but it's just interesting how it's evolved. So I know obviously you trained in the States, you trained in the UK. Have you noticed any difference between the two about how they're taught, how aesthetics is taught and how aesthetics is maybe
I think
practiced?
we're definitely coming back then when I was doing it, we were certainly behind Ireland was, but I think the UK and Ireland are really catching up now and there's been more awareness around aesthetic treatments and what we can achieve over here. So it's fantastic. It wasn't really that you could go anywhere in Ireland when I started out to do training in aesthetics. So I had no choice really to go States, UK. Where now I think there is courses you can do and especially medical courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's getting there.
Yeah. You could learn back then there was no such thing as the internet. You couldn't just learn online. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's definitely different. And well
Mm.
done you with a 4-month-old going to the States. That must have been terrifying.
I think ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was like, we'll just do it. And it just worked out well. I think looking back now, I'm nearly more scared. Oh my God, did I do that? Did that actually happen? When you do things like that.
I'm exactly the same. I moved to the States when I was 17 by myself. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that now.
Oh, I think
I'd have a list long in my arm about reasons why I shouldn't and reasons why it wouldn't work. So I think when you're that age, maybe you've no fear.
that's it.
And we had no choice. We had no choice. There
Yeah.
was no internet.
Yeah.
So that's so cool. I love that you did that. So if you could go back, I think this is a really good piece of advice to give younger people maybe starting out in the industry.
Mm.
So if you could go back in time and you could give little Gemma one piece of advice about starting out in the hair and beauty industry, what would you tell her?
I would just say to back yourself. Back then, hadn't as much confidence as I have now, and I probably let doubt and get into my head too much. So I would believe in myself a lot more that I could actually go and do it. Even though I have achieved a lot, I would tell her to keep going and keep achieving and believe in yourself and back yourself. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is definitely a bit of imposter syndrome, especially with
Yes.
women. I think we have, and I think that confidence piece that you're talking about, I think that sometimes comes with age. I think we've no fear when we're younger, but I think the confidence in our skills and ourselves and our abilities does come. I know personally for me anyway, with age, I'm so much more
Yes.
confident than I would have been when I was younger. So yeah, back yourself. Very good. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I always go with the mantra, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. That's really important. Um,
100%. Yeah.
and you have to believe in yourself. And it took me later in life to realize that. And so so much so I have it tattooed on me. It's that important to me. I'll
That's
always
gorgeous.
rise up like a phoenix, holding the gemstone, which is what I'm passionate about, and keep moving forward.
That's gorgeous. That's really lovely. And I think there's no such thing as a mistake as long as you learn from it. Like
And
I've
listen,
made
yeah.
absolutely. And a lesson that you can teach your students and I can teach my students. I love that. So we're going to read a story together and then we're
Okay.
going to discuss it and we're going to decide if this person is in the right or the wrong or how we would have maybe dealt with it. So this is a story from Reddit and the title is I Need Help on How to Fire a Client. Backstory, I have a client who has been a friend of the family for many years. She made a few questionable decisions in her life recently, and one of them she didn't tell me about till she was sitting in my chair and it threw me for a loop. Then she asked me if I would babysit her kid full time for her since her babysitter had to find a real job. And then she told my sister she was irritated that I didn't have time to watch her kid, making me out to feel like I didn't have a job. Her tone was condescending. Now she keeps wanting to impulsively change her hair, asking me if it would be cheaper to put a box dye in her hair. Of course, I said no to that. And asking that I open more days for me to do her hair. I've used a lot of I can't do that day or I'm already booked. And I've said no to all of these things that she's asked me to do. I'm just not comfortable doing her hair anymore and I don't want the drama. So how do I address this where I don't have to keep telling her no, but in a respectful way? Is this even possible? I don't know about you, but I've definitely had nightmare
Mhm.
clients before that I've had to fire. And I'm just wondering how you would go about this. I think I know how I'd go about it nowadays compared to how I would have gone about it before. So have you ever had to fire a client and what advice would you give
Um,
the person?
I think you're going to go through life in particular, whether it be a client or just people in general, that you need to fire out of your life. And it's the way you do it. I'm all about energy these days and good energy. And that's all I mean. It doesn't seem that client stroke friend has her best interest at heart at all, does she? I would just say it in the most direct, I'm a very direct person, nice way, and just come from a loving place. That's all you can do.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. And that's so years ago, I would have dealt with that very differently. I would have ghosted that person or been like, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't. Or so
Yeah.
somebody, my therapist actually once told me, once you start to explain yourself, you've already lost. And no is a full sentence.
Yeah.
And I'd go, no, I can't because I have this client booked in and then I have
Yeah.
another and then I have to be here and I have to collect my
I
son
would have
from
been the
the other
same.
side.
I would have
Yeah.
been jumping through hoops to try and please her, reminding her kids and still
Oh,
doing
yeah.
her hair. That would
I
be
would
me.
say,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I can think of one client in particular that I had years ago, and she's very wealthy. And I remember I used to do her hair on a call out basis, and I'd be doing her
Mm-mm.
hair in like the Shelburne, and she just had a full face of aesthetics done. She just bought showing me her designer handbag, and then she'd be like, I've spent all my allowance because her husband would give her an allowance. So can I pay you next month?
Oh,
And I'd
lovely.
go,
Yeah.
but I'd be going, I've no petrol to get home because I've had to
Yeah.
pay for her hair and all these expenses. This is like when I was very young. And for years and years, I do this. And then there was always issues, always problems,
Mm.
always like just expecting me to fit her in last minute. I remember during COVID, she wanted me to go and do her hair in her house where her elderly mother lived. And I was like, I can't, there's no way. Like, I'm not insured. I'm not driving to Tipperary. I'm like, all of
Mm.
these things. And I was explaining myself. And then afterwards, I just thought, what am I doing? Like, why? And
Mhm.
with those type of clients, I would have, yeah, ghosted them. But now I think exactly you need to be direct because it might feel a little bit icky. It might feel a bit horrible to do it at the start. But God, it's such a relief rather than stringing
Yeah.
somebody along or,
Completely agree with you. I've had all those experiences that you've said yourself. And because hairdressing is quite personable and because it's quite friendly and treated like a business, you have to compartmentalize it at times and say, this is my job. This is what pays me. So
yeah.
you have to be able to compartmentalize it and just say, no, be direct about it. Actually, no, it's not okay that you can't pay me today.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
no, I can't mind your child. Like I read a
Yeah.
good comment that
Yeah.
was like, you wouldn't ask your accountant to change the oil in your car. Like, what? You asking me to babysit? Yeah, I
No.
think the lesson there is to be direct with your
Yes.
clients, and just you don't have to be unkind, but just you need boundaries. And boundaries
Absolutely.
are a real lesson that I learned. It took me a very
Yeah,
long
me
time.
too.
But yeah, that's the advice we'll give that lady. Have boundaries,
Yeah.
be kind, and just yeah, look after yourself. Put on your own mask before those around you. So I have some quick fire questions for you now,
Go first.
Gemma. So real quickly, what is your favorite treatment to perform and why is it your favorite treatment?
We go with the aesthetics, and I just love doing lips. Just love it. Just I love the buzz of it. I love the reaction afterwards I get off people and my clients. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think lips are such an important part of your face. I think they're like brows and lips.
absolutely.
Got those two, you're sorted.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you could only use one skincare or beauty or hair product for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh God, that's a really tough one. I'm a big fan of actually soda cream for acne for
Made in
skincare.
Ireland.
Yes. And I really realized that when I was in the States because you couldn't get it over there at the time and I was lost without it. So I think I'll probably use that for the rest of my life. Anyone that
Nice.
knows me knows I use it.
That's great. The cream. Brilliant answers. Do you drink tea or coffee? And how do
I
you
do.
take it? You do? Which
I drink both. I'm a big tea drinker, I have to say. I like coffee in the morning and I take it with just a drop of slimline milk. And then with the tea, I'm funny, I actually only have almond milk in my tea.
Really? I don't like almond milk in tea. I don't. I like it in coffee. I don't like it in
I know
tea.
it's I
Uh,
started out with that, and I'm actually a Lime's tea drinker. I'm not Barry's.
Ooh.
I know I'm the black sheep of the family. They can't get over it, but there you go.
I think I prefer Tetley. I think that's
But I find we're all different, like especially hairdressers. We're all out in our own little, island.
yeah. I think hairdressers are big coffee drinkers in general. Like I
Because
never
even
get.
even what food and everything, I think we get so used to eating on the go, especially years ago. That was the thing. We're all left with digestive problems and IBS and just on the go eating, and so we're all quirky when it comes to our
Yeah.
drinks.
And that eating on the go thing, I'm really glad. Like I've noticed with the new generation of hairdressers, that's been left behind
Yeah,
because we were shamed for taking a 5 minute
I
break or
know.
even
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad that's starting to change. So do you believe in star signs? And if what's yours? And does it match your own personality?
I do believe in star signs. I'm quite spiritual, and in fact, so I believe in energies and all astrology. My star sign's Cancer, and I'm very much every bit of it.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
That's water sign, right?
yeah. We're passionate, we're emotional. Everything we do, we put that into it, and I am that person. Yeah.
I could have guessed that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm a water sign
What are
as
you?
well. It's probably
What are
I'm a
you?
Pisces. I'm Pisces.
Oh, cool.
So it's probably why we get on. So, who is your dream celebrity client? If you could do
Mm.
anybody's hair or aesthetics, who would you love to?
Oh my God, that's a tricky one now, isn't it? I'd celebrities, they're quite natural, but they're beautiful at the same time. I don't know. I can't even pick one. Well, anybody that came along and was asked me to work on them, I'd be so happy. I love Michelle Keegan. I love her style and
Right.
yeah,
Cool.
she's beautiful. I know she just had a baby lately, but yeah, she'd probably be my girl brush if I had one. I'd love to work on her.
I always say mine's Dolly Parton because she's a
Oh,
model. I would, but I don't think I could cope if I met her. I think I wouldn't be able to hold it together because she's like God to me. I just
would
know
you
that
be
one.
able to hold the hairbrush and actually do her hair when the
I
showings?
don't know. I think I'd
You
probably
could
just
just
start
breathe.
crying and just make a fool of myself. So everybody else is grand. I'm not like I don't get. I've done lots of celebrities' hair. I don't get whatever it's called, like overwhelmed by it. But
Starstruck, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
starstruck is the
Me
word.
neither.
But
Yeah.
Dolly's on a different level. But she wears wigs anyways.
Yeah, there you go.
So tell me, what's next for the Gem Clinic? Where are you going next? Any
Uh,
exciting plan?
and yeah, we're hoping to expand to Dubai. It's really exciting for us. So we're hoping to have a branch over there soon. So that's really in the process now, and just so excited. Always had the vision and keep going forward with the vision. And that's where I do that probably to the day I die, is just always have move forward and have a vision. And so it's all about expanding now to Dubai. We're nearly there with it. So I'm looking
That's
forward
so
to the
cool.
next chapter. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's really,
Thank
really
you.
exciting. That's so cool. If people want to reach out to you, where can they get in touch with you, Gemma? Are you on social media?
We are, so you can follow us on Instagram, the Gem Clinic, and we're also on TikTok, and you can email us our website www.thegemclinic.ie.
Fantastic.
And
Lovely. I'm glad to hear you're on TikTok because TikTok is fantastic. I was never on it until a couple of years ago, and now a lot of my business comes from TikTok. So it is a massive platform. So delighted to hear you're on there. So, Gemma, that was fantastic. You're absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're so great.